The Chicago Blackhawks recently recalled Oliver Moore from the Rockford Ice Hogs and in exchange sent Landon Slaggert back down to the AHL. Now, as a big Oliver Moore guy, I'm pretty pumped about this. I will not lie. And as a guy who wanted Oliver Moore to be on the Blackhawks to start the season, yeah, I'm excited about this. However, I do want to get some of your guys' feedback. I want to get the fans' perspective because I do know there's a large contingent of you Blackhawks fans out there that are very anti rushing guys to the NHL or developing players at the NHL level. And while I disagree mostly, it's a case-by-case situation, but while I disagree with that sentiment, I do understand where you're coming from. So I would love to know what you guys think about this and you know, if you guys think it's too soon, because basically everything we've heard and understood about the Oliver Moore situation to start the year was that the timeline was supposed to be somewhat similar to Frank Nazar's last year. You know, play him in the AHL, help him grow his confidence, become a more imposing player, and really grow in Rockford, and then around December, January time, call him back up to the Blackhawks where he would presumably play the rest of the season and the rest of his career. I would love to know how you guys feel about this timeline. You know, the start of the season for him in Rockford was really solid. He was lighting it up. He scored a bunch of goals. He just was looking dominant. He was looking like too fast and skilled for the American League, which is exactly what we wanted to see as Hawks fans. I'm just curious as to how people feel about this sort of rush in the timeline. The reason for the Oliver Moore call-up is not because of his start in Rockford, although it's been very impressive. It's because Jason Dickinson picked up an injury, and Jason Dickinson's an important two-way player for this team that logs important defensive minutes and kind of a body that I think they didn't feel like Sam Lafferty could replace. And so they call Oliver Moore up, and so Oliver Moore is going to have an opportunity for at least the rest of this road trip, but we don't really know exactly how long Jason Dickinson's going to be out, but assuming it's not too long and maybe a week and a half, and Oliver Moore only has 5 or 6 games to play, he's still got an opportunity to prove that he belongs. And if Oliver Moore performs well at the NHL level here during this little stint, they're not going to send him back down. He would essentially make it impossible for the Blackhawks to send him back down if he plays well, which is completely and utterly what I'm rooting for, obviously. But what I'm curious about is when Jason Dickinson comes back, what does that mean for the rest of the lineup? So I've got it up here. I'll move over for you guys. I'll scooch over. So these were the lines we saw against Seattle, right? You had Bedard on that first line with Burakovsky and Green, which has been an absolutely dynamite line. They've played, 3 or 4 games together now, and I think you got to keep those guys together. I've liked what I've seen from Ryan Green. Maybe you want him to put a couple in the back of the net, show a little more scoring touch. But I think he's complemented these two really well. The game against the Seattle Kraken was this line's worst game I feel like I've seen in a long time. Teuvo Teravainen pissed me off. I thought Teuvo Teravainen had an absolute stinker against the Seattle Kraken, and Frank Nazar didn't do him any favors. I don't think Frank Nazar was super noticeable in that one. Probably Frank Nazar's worst game of the season, if we're being honest. I would love to see Oliver Moore up here in this spot on the second line. I think you swap these two. Teuvo Teravainen has had solid chemistry with Ilya Mikheyev throughout his second stint with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think you put Oliver Moore up on the same line as Frank Nazar with Tyler Bertuzzi. You've got that speed, that playmaking ability, and Oliver Moore is exactly what the Chicago Blackhawks think their identity is going to be going forward. They want to be a heavy, strong, forechecking team, and Oliver Moore's speed allows him to be a really dangerous forechecker because he can close down distance as well as anybody in the league just because of the foot speed. So I think you pair that with Frank Nazar. I mean, the speed, the attention to detail in the two-way game, and then you got Tyler Bertuzzi just looking for tap-ins backdoor as these two are going to be setting him up, making creative plays. Bertuzzi also helping with puck retrieval and whatnot, but I think that's the line I'd like to see. And then, as I said, Teuvo with Donato and Mikheyev, I think is a third line you can feel really strong about. And then once Jason Dickinson comes back, that's where the questions are at, right? Because do you go back to 12 forwards and 6 defensemen with Jason Dickinson coming back? Like, if Oliver Moore performs really well, you're not sending him back down to Rockford, and Jason Dickinson's not going to be a healthy scratch. He's just not. These coaches love him too much. He does too much important defensive work work for the team, great on the PK and whatnot. Jason Dickinson's not going to be a healthy scratch. And so it's like, yeah, maybe are you going to be scratching Artem Levshinov or Louis Crevier or maybe a Matt Grzelcyk? That's kind of the problem the coaching staff will have on their hands here if Oliver Moore plays really well over this brief stint, especially on this road trip. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think you keep Moore up there. I think you put Moore on the second line, bring Tavo to the third line, and I think you plug Jason Dickinson in here on this fourth line center role with Foligno and Doc, and then I think you kind of just rotate which defenseman watches the game from the press box each night. It's difficult to do, especially there's going to be games where maybe none of these defensemen deserve to be scratched and watch the game from the press box. But when you've got a team with depth, which now it's crazy to say, the Chicago Blackhawks with this prospect pipeline have found themselves in a situation where they do have depth. Maybe it's, they're not all great NHL players now, but you've got different options and guys that provide different things. Like Matt Grzelcyk, this was my concern. He's been pretty good for the Chicago Blackhawks this far. Was partially responsible for the second goal for the Seattle Kraken. He completely screened Arvid Soderblom. But all things considered, Matt Grzelcyk has been pretty good for the Chicago Blackhawks. But this was the reason why I was so upset about the PTO in the signing, is because now it's just like, now you're clogging stuff up. If you didn't have Matt Grzelcyk here, you'd be playing Vlasic, Kaiser, and you'd probably be playing Crevier on that left side. You wouldn't even be thinking about this. But you got Matt Grzelcyk in there now, and so when Jason Dickinson comes back and Oliver Moore hopefully looks good, you're going to have to start making decisions. So let me know what you guys think about that, what you think they should do once Jason Dickinson gets healthy and assuming Oliver Moore plays well. Let me know what you think they should do with the lineup and the roster. I'm going to be streaming the game tonight against the Vancouver Canucks. It's a late one, 9 o'clock. Be there. The streams have been awesome. But that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And join the Madhouse. That's what we decided we're calling this. We're calling it the Madhouse. So join the Madhouse, and I will see you for the stream tonight. Peace.